When the nurse said my emergency contact was on his way, I did not expect to see the man I once kissed in my boyfriend's car. Hospitals smell like bleach and swallowed panic. Mine did, anyway. Sterile corridors, the snap of latex gloves, white lights so bright it felt personal. The curtain around my gurney rattled every time someone rushed past, and the air conditioner breathed out a steady, indifferent chill that crept under my thin gown and made my skin pebble. I was very busy pretending I was made of steel when the truth was I was made of throbbing pain and regret. Wet stairs, plastic grocery bags, one bad step, then a crack like lightning inside my shin. Everyone says you know when a bone breaks. I didn't know. I just knew that suddenly the world belonged to someone else and I was a visitor with a head full of white noise. "Miss Mason?" the nurse said, briskly kind. "We called your emergency contact. He's on his way." "Great," I said, in the voice of a person who owns many throw pillows and also a functioning life. The word X lodged halfway up my throat. I swallowed it. The nurse offered the kind of smile that says, "I've seen worse and I'm rooting for you anyway," and disappeared to wage war on a vein somewhere. I exhaled, counting ceiling tiles I hadn't authorized and thinking about all the ways I was going to avoid texting my mother. And then I felt it, more than heard it. A weight at the edge of the curtain, a pause in the ambient chaos, presence like a hand pressed against a door from the other side. The curtain scraped back. "Hey," Jake said, voice pitched soft to avoid startling whatever animals were currently living in my nervous system. "You okay?" "Not Evan." He took up space the way some men wear suits, clean, inevitable. The light caught on his shoulders and had to figure out what to do next. He smelled like rain waiting to fall and cedar that's been warmed by sun, the kind of scent that pries your lungs open without asking permission. My pulse did exactly what it always did around him, sprinted, then pretended it had meant to do that. "Did the hospital run out of Evans?" I asked, because humor is my favorite tourniquet. "Backorder? Supply chain issues?" Jake's mouth did the almost smile that used to make me want to throw a spoon at his head. "Your phone had me listed," he said. "Emergency contact." "Right, that." I'd put his name down months ago, after a different staircase and a different scare, when Evan had a meeting and Jake was the one who actually showed up. I'd meant to change it back to no one, which tells you everything about me that you need to know. "Clerical error," I said. "I'll write a letter to management." "Do that," he said mildly, and stepped in. Instantly the world narrowed into a kind of livable shape. I hated that. I loved that. He positioned himself between me and the door, just enough to block the draft and anyone else's view. And the tension uncoiled in my shoulders like I was a rigging line and he knew knots. "My leg," I said, in case the giant white cast wasn't communicating clearly enough. "I decided stairs are a scam." His eyes flicked down, then up. He's a man who inventories the situation in silence. Where's the pain? Where's the nearest exit? Which choice keeps the person in front of him breathing? "That looks bad," he said. 10 out of 10, would not recommend. I swallowed against the sudden sting at the backs of my eyes. "What are you doing here, Jake?" "You put me on the form," he said, "and I answer phone calls." The air conditioning coughed, the curtain clacked, someone down the hall laughed too loudly, and all I could hear was the quiet thread of that. "I answer phone calls." We have history, me and Jake. He was Evan's best friend. He tracked mud into my hallway and drank my coffee like he was on the lease. He called me Mason because it made me argue, and he looked at me like he'd found the joke before I did. Once, one night that never learned how to stop humming, we kissed in the back seat of Evan's SUV while Evan was inside paying for gas. Reckless, stupid, a spark in a dry season. We never talked about it. We walked around it like a live wire. Now he was standing at the edge of my hospital bed like he'd been given a job he intended to do well. "Do you want me to call your mom?" he asked. "You want to be on a three-way with my mother?" I said. "That's a level of intimacy we skipped." "Laura," he said with that little notch between his brows that means stop deflecting. She'll weaponize worry," I said, "but okay, fine, call Linda." He raised an eyebrow, saved as, "Do not answer," his almost smile again. He scrolled, tapped, and when he put the call on speaker and leaned in so I could hear, the heat of him slid under the antiseptic like contraband warmth. "Laura!" My mother exploded into sound before the connection even finished. "Why is the man answering? Laura!" "It's me, Linda," Jake said, and I swear I could feel my mother's eyebrow launching itself into low orbit. "Oh," she said, suspicion with lipstick. The friend, I muttered. "Laura," my mother said, turning her full FaceTime beam on me. "You look pale. I'm in a hospital. More pale than the other people." "They have color. I will survive," I said. "Unless I die of embarrassment. Don't be dramatic." "Young man," she pivoted, "your shoulders are very broad. Are you staying with her?" "Mom," I hissed. Jake's gaze flicked to mine, amused and steady. "I'm not leaving her alone," he said. "I'll take her home." My chest did that thing where it opened and a draft came through, bringing with it hail and hope. My wolf, the quiet animal logic under my human thoughts, stretched, shook herself, and trotted forward to press her head against the bars of my ribs. She doesn't talk in words. She knows the weather. "Good," my mother said crisply. "She faints around needles." "Do not," I said, "tell him that." "Goodbye for now," Mom said, which in my family means I love you, fix your posture, and don't mess this up. Jake ended the call. The room felt strangely bigger without my mother's face hovering over the bed. He glanced at the IV taped to my hand, at the paper cup of water, at the crumpled napkin I was pretending was dignity. "Did they give you pain meds?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "My leg is in 1987, on a scale of 1 to 10. "Yes," I said again, which earned me a huff of breath that might have been a laugh. He pulled the plastic chair closer and sat in a way that made the chair consider its life choices. The surgeon came by with encouraging phrases like, "Clean break in 6 to 8 weeks and elevate." I nodded like, "Yes, that is exactly the kind of time I have." When she left, the nurse reappeared to swap bags and scribble on charts and ask me if I had a designated caregiver. "She does," Jake said, before I could invent an aunt. "I'll take her home. I can come by mornings and nights." I turned my head to look at him. "You have a job." "So do you," he said evenly. "We'll figure it out." "Evan," I began, because I am a coward who still uses old names to hide in. "Is in Tahoe," Jake said. "Corporate retreat. Axe throwing in Trust Falls." I blinked. "Did you just make that up?" "No," he said, and his mouth flattened in a way that told me he had a lot of opinions about axes and falls. "So he asked you to check on me?" I said, the words tasting weird in my mouth. Jake's gaze didn't flinch. I told him I already was. Silence collected between us. Not empty. Not awkward. The kind that feels like a held breath in a church you don't believe in anymore. "Okay," I said finally, because the alternative was something with tears in it. "Okay." He stayed. He signed a form when my hands shook. He confiscated the hospital jello and replaced it with a cup of ice he fed me with a plastic spoon like I was a cranky baby bird. When an orderly in scrubs the color of improbable oceans wheeled me to X-ray, Jake walked alongside, one hand on the rail. He didn't touch me more than necessary. He didn't have to. He was there like a wall, like a door, like a promise he hadn't said out loud. On the way back, the hallway was a parade of someone else's emergencies. A man arguing with a vending machine. A child announcing the number 7 at top volume. A woman whose perfume hit me like a slap, sharp, floral, meant to cover. My throat tightened, automatic. The instinct that lives under my skin, Omega suppressed, domesticated, flickered awake, head up, ears pricked. Jake felt it happen. I saw the moment in the set of his shoulders, in the way he slid between me and the scent without looking like he'd done anything at all. "Breathe," he said softly. I did. The perfume fell behind us, a closed door. Back in the curtained square of my kingdom, the nurse adjusted the angle of my bed and told me not to do anything heroic. Jake glanced at his watch. The lines around his mouth were the late afternoon kind. "You should go," I said, even though everything in me had taken off its coat. "I'm staying until they release you," he said. "Staying isn't a personality," I said. "It's a verb." He leaned back in the chair like he had time to wait out my vocabulary. "It's also a decision." We sat there and let the day tip toward evening. The white light softened into something yellower and more forgiving. The noises in the hallway calmed, or maybe we just found the frequency where they became background. "Do you remember that gas station outside Trenton?" I heard myself say, which was not a sentence I'd planned to say. Jake's hand stilled on the arm of the chair. He didn't look at me. "Yes, that was stupid," I said. "Very," he agreed. "It felt like jumping into a pool at midnight," I said, and my voice betrayed me by being honest. Like the world was rules and then it wasn't. He stared at his knuckles. "I didn't stop thinking about it," he said so quietly I almost missed it. "Oh," I said, and my heartbeat registered the statement, printed it, filed it under things that explained too much. We didn't say anything else about it. Someone down the hall dropped a tray. A monitor beeped in a rhythm that would ruin any song. I let my eyes close for one selfish second and listened to his breathing, the reliable in and out of a man who thinks in straight lines and builds things that don't fall down. They finally released me with a stack of papers and a lecture about elevation. Jake signed the last form, took the packet, and collected the plastic bag full of my personal effects like he was picking up a very tiny, very confusing dry cleaning order. He helped me swing my legs over the side of the bed, careful not to jar the cast, and when I swayed he was there, hands warm at my elbows, not gripping, just anchoring. "Easy," he said. "I'm fine," I said, which meant I was about to fall over. "I've got you," he said, which had the immediate, embarrassing effect of making my throat close. We shuffled to the exit in the slow procession of the newly fragile. The automatic doors whooshed, the evening air hit us with a hint of rain, and the city beyond glittered like it had secrets it might share if you bought it dinner. He angled his body between me and the street like the sheer fact of traffic offended him personally. "I'll take you home," he said. "You don't have to," I said, because I am a responsible adult who owns too many mugs and not enough coping mechanisms. "I know," he said. "I want to." I looked at him, really looked. Wind ruffled his hair. He hadn't shaved. His eyes were tired in the way you get when you've been working with your hands, and then used them to hold something breakable. He smelled like the first drop of a storm. My wolf nudged me, impatient and certain, this way. "Evan will," I began. "Not an issue," Jake said, with calm that was not a dare but could be if pressed. "Laura, do you want me to help? It should have been simple, yes or no. For me, it is never simple. Help means owing. Help means needing. Needing means I might not be enough on my own." But I remembered the feel of his hands steadying me without taking over. I remembered the way he'd stood in the hallway and let his body take the scent instead of mine. I remembered the call to my mother, and the I answer phone calls, and the chair that had not been designed for a man his size, and how he'd sat in it anyway. "Yes," I said, and the word loosened something that had been knotted since long before the stairs. "I want—" His shoulders softened, fractionally. "Okay," he said. He walked me to the curb and flagged a cab with the boring efficiency of a person who refuses to make hair into theater. He held the door, guided me in, stowed my crutches. When he slid in beside me, the cab filled with that warm cedar rain scent, and my whole nervous system did a treacherous exhale. Outside, the city blinked. Inside, I stared hard at the back of the driver's headrest and told myself the heat in my face was from the hospital lights we'd left behind. The cast itched. The night promised weather. Jake's thigh was a careful inch from mine, like he'd measured the space and decided that was the distance at which I could breathe. I could, maybe too well. I leaned my head back, let my eyes close, and listened to the rhythm of tires on wet street. Dangerous, I thought, that someone could smell like home. More dangerous to admit it. I tucked the word away where I put all the sharp things. Home. And still, I didn't move away. The cab leaves us at the curb like we're a fragile package with vague instructions. Do not drop. May contain feelings. My building rises out of the street like a tired ship. Brick, ivy that refuses to quit, and a front stoop that's seen more Sundays than God. The rain that threatened all afternoon finally begins to mist. The sort of drizzle that sneaks into your hair and decides to stay. "Keys?" Jake asks. "Front pocket," I say, indicating the tote bag he rescued from the hospital. He doesn't rummage, he searches, neat and unhurried, then gets the door open with an ease that tells me he's done it before. The foyer smells like old wood and someone's attempt at citrus cleaner. A light flickers, valiantly losing. The stairs are the opposite of Ada compliant. Narrow, steep, the kind of staircase that assumes you can both levitate and apologize. I brace my crutches. I can hop, I announce, lying to both of us. You can let me carry you, he counters, already turning so I can loop my arms around his neck. His voice is even, but there's a thread in it I've learned to recognize, not command exactly. Containment. Choice, offered like a handrail. I'm heavy, I say, because deflection is my Fitbit. You're human, he says, sliding an arm under my knees. And your building is a liability. I hate that my body melts into the position like it was constructed for it. I hate more how much I don't hate it. He lifts like the motion has been tested and approved by engineers. No jostling, no show. My wolf, traitor that she is, wags her tail and tucks her muzzle into the space beneath my collarbone. The scent of him, cedar and storm, makes the hallway less hostile, the climb shorter, the air something I can use. Say if anything hurts, he says. My pride, I tell him. It's fractured. Rest and elevation, he says. 6 to 8 weeks. We crest the first landing and the soundtrack of my building kicks in. A TV murmuring, pipes clanking, someone practicing the same guitar riff with apocalyptic commitment. By the second landing, my door neighbor appears as if conjured by gossip. Mrs. Kaplan is 5 feet of opinion in orthopedic shoes, curls like punctuation, eyes that see through drywall and excuses. She's wearing a robe the color of a good Merlot and clutching a remote like it's a scepter. Oh, she says, delighted, as if she ordered this scene, a dramatic entrance. Should I throw rose petals? Please no, I say. I'm allergic to symbolism. She peers at Jake over non-existent glasses. This is the friend. I open my mouth to specify that friend is a complicated word doing too much labor in this sentence. Jake beats me to it. Yes, ma'am. She gives him an evaluation that would make a board of directors sweat. You look like you can build a deck and also emotionally process. Jake, to his credit, doesn't drop me or self-combust. Thank you. I'm watching Desperate Housewives, she informs us, as if this is critical to fire safety. Season 2. People underestimate Bree. They think perfection is armor. It's a cage. She turns to me, eyes softening. How's the leg, Bubble? Cast as chic, I say. Very winter white. Good bones heals, she declares, as if she personally wrote the manual. Young man, you carry her carefully, and set a timer if you put anything in the oven. She gets lost in her spreadsheets and nearly set the basil on fire last month. That was once, I protest. Twice, she corrects. But the second time you cried, so I'm rounding down. Jake's mouth tilts. I'll handle the oven. She shifts to conspiratorial. When are you bringing him to dinner? I make a brisket that repairs relationships. Mrs. Kaplan, I say, heat racing to my cheeks. She pats my shoulder like she owns stock in me. I like him, she tells me loudly, as if Jake isn't right there. Good shoulders, looks at you like you're a person, not an errand. Then she clicks her tongue at Jake. If you hurt her, I will know. Yes, ma'am, Jake says solemnly. She disappears in a swirl of TV theme music. I can hear the familiar Wisteria Lane strings through the wall as we climb the last flight. Jake doesn't comment on any of it. He just carries me like this is a commute. Inside my apartment, the air is a balm. Lemon cleaner, basil soil, the faint sweetness of the candle I forgot to blow out yesterday. Plants crowd the windows, glossy and thriving, sunlight slides across the hardwood like honey. I love this space the way some people love a favorite shirt. It fits me. Jake sets me down on the couch with care so precise it makes my throat ache. He pauses, hands hovering like he wants to check every part of me for splinters. I'm okay, I say. The couch sighs under my weight. You didn't drop me down the stairs, which is frankly above average for my week. Do you need water, pain meds, food? He's already scanning rug edges, coffee table corners, anything that could conspire to bruise. Water, I say. And I'm supposed to take these in. I glance at the printout. 30 minutes. My voice does that thing it does when someone is competent in my vicinity, goes small and annoyed. He heads to the kitchen with the easy familiarity of someone who's grabbed a mug here before. He pulls the kettle, checks the filter, fills it without splash. He opens the pantry and I watch his. Eyebrow rise at the pantry in quotation marks situation. Logistics managers, it turns out, are not immune to chaos in their own cupboards. You're out of black tea, he notes, neutrally, like a weather report. I make a face. Don't judge me. I'm not judging, he says, already pulling down the tin of green tea I actually like when I remember to be kind to myself. You take it light, no sugar. I blink. You remember that? He shrugs small, as if this should not be the part that makes my heart trip. You burned your mouth once. You blamed me. I've been careful since. He sets the kettle, then pivots through the space in a quiet audit. The throw rug gets tugged under the coffee table so my crutches won't snag. The stack of magazines migrates to a safer corner. He opens the fridge, frowns at the lone jar of marinara trying to claim citizenship, and starts unloading the bag he brought up with us like Mary Poppins, if Mary Poppins had an REI card: rotisserie chicken, pre-cut vegetables, plain yogurt, eggs, bread that isn't mostly air, fruit that still believes in itself. Did you raid a farm? I ask. Bodega, he says. The good one. You got the yogurt I like, I say before I can stop myself. The tangy one. You don't do sweet for breakfast, he says. Makes you crash at 11. Which is true, and the specificity of it lands somewhere under my breastbone with embarrassing precision. Evan never noticed my 11 a.m. crash. Evan thought hangry was a personality flaw you could schedule around. Do you want spicy? Jake asks, holding up a bottle of something red with a skull on it. I snort. I am a coward. You're not, he says, and puts the bottle on the top shelf anyway, out of our immediate future. Soup? I'm not 80, I protest. Then the smell hits me. Garlic, chicken, thyme, and my stomach does a cartoon noise. Okay, apparently I am. While it heats, he moves through the rest of the prep like he's working a job site, efficient, quiet, aware of exits. He places a heavy glass on the coaster nearest my right hand. He tucks a folded towel under my cast so my heel doesn't ache. He plugs in my phone without asking where the charger is, because he already knows. This is the problem with a man who paid attention when you weren't watching. Suddenly you're a place he fits. Thanks, I say, too soft. He doesn't make me say it louder. We eat at the coffee table, bowls steaming. He sits not quite touching, knees angled in that open, careful way. My living room glows warm around us. The rain hushes against the window like a lullaby that doesn't know when to quit. Mrs. Kaplan's TV bleeds through the wall in faint, juicy lines. Who are we rooting for? He asks, spoon poised. Depends, I say. If I want to feel superior, I root for Lynette. If I want to feel seen, I root for Bree and then walk into the ocean. Perfection as a cage, he says, nodding like he's taking notes in a class I didn't know he enrolled in. I blow on my soup. Mrs. Kaplan likes you. I bribed her with a toolbox last year, he confesses. Her cabinet door used to slap so loud it scared the neighbor's cat. You fix that? I ask. I fix things, he says simply, and doesn't look at me when he says it. The back of my neck prickles. My wolf lifts her head and sniffs the air like the weather just changed. We fall into one of those conversations that looks like nothing from the outside and feels like scaffolding from the inside. He tells me about a guy on his crew who swears the new mixer whispers at night. Leave coffee for the men who poured the foundation. And I tell him about the time a shipping lane got rerouted mid-week, and I saved $250,000 by treating a spreadsheet like a murder mystery. He makes fun of my habit of naming plants. I point out his boots have more miles than my car. He laughs, not loud, not showy. Like he spends laughter and doesn't throw it around. When the kettle clicks off, he brings me tea exactly how I like it, light and breathing. He doesn't hand it to me until my fingers are free and my balance sure. His awareness sits low and steady in the room, a presence, not a demand. It would be easy here to forget the other pieces of the story, that I am an Omega who has spent years sanding down her edges with suppressants and routines, that being near an alpha like him is a pressure system I've kept at bay with humor and excellent posture, that there's a bottle in my medicine cabinet that I take at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., right on time, because that's what you do when your body sometimes chooses heat like a bonfire and you have a job and a commute and a whole life that doesn't have room for wildfire. At 8 p.m., my phone chirps. Habit pulls me toward the bathroom. Jake's head turns just a fraction. He doesn't ask. He doesn't follow. He just exists in the living room, a tall promise of calm, while I close the door and stare at myself in the mirror. My face is hospital pale, sleep-starved, hair in an aftershock. I open the cabinet and look at the bottle. The label says what it always says. My hand hesitates. It's not that I want chaos. It's not that being near him makes me reckless. It's that something in me, deep and old and stubborn, has started to stretch now that the world doesn't smell like bleach, and the animal in my bones has stopped crouching and started listening. Not to him, to me. I take the dose anyway. I'm not brave enough to skip it, not tonight. But the hesitation leaves a mark I can feel as I return to the couch and tuck my leg under the towel he placed, and accept the cup he made exactly, and sit in the small universe our bodies make out of air and warmth and unspoken things. Comfortable? He asks. Annoyingly, I say. Stop being good at this. He tilts his head, eyes amused. Being what? Useful, I say. Predictable. Kind. Those aren't crimes, he says. They are when I've gotten very good at not needing them, I say, then want to swallow the words whole. He doesn't move toward me. He doesn't retreat. You can need something and still be the one who decides, he says, so matter-of-fact it doesn't feel like philosophy. Needing isn't handing over the keys, it's, I'll drive but you can sit in the passenger seat and call out potholes. I snort. Terrible metaphor. Accurate, he says. The rain tips into a steadier rhythm. The city melts along the edges. I rest my head against the couch back and let my eyes drift shut. His scent skims the room, cedar and weather, and that particular chrome-bright note that says alpha without shouting. My wolf sighs and lies down, chin on paws, awake. I'll take the guest key, he says after a while, voice low so it won't startle the part of me that's fallen asleep. I'll swing by before work. After 2 if you want. If I want, I echo, because choice is a spell you have to say aloud to make it hold. He stands, gathers bowls, washes without commentary. He writes a list on a sticky note I didn't know I owned. Black tea, more fruit, batteries for the flickering hall light, a bath bench. He leaves it stuck to the fridge like a promise. At the door, he hesitates, just enough that I feel it. Jake, I say. Yeah? Thanks, I say, and it means more than soup and rugs. He nods, like he received the translation. Text if you wake up in pain. I'm fine, I say automatically. He looks at me, and the corner of his mouth lifts. Yeah, he says, and I answer phone calls. After he's gone, the apartment sits with me like a friend who doesn't need to talk. The basil breathes. The rain thickens. Through the wall, a housewife makes a terrible decision and Mrs. Kaplan clucks in outrage. I settle deeper into the couch and stare at the ceiling I know by heart. Jake was part of the life I had before the breakup, a recurring guest star in a sitcom I thought I understood. I never planned for him to be a series regular. I never planned for him to carry me up my own stairs and check my fridge and make my tea and leave the room smelling like a storm I wanted to walk into. I don't trust storms. They ruin plans and change streets and make a mess of tidy. But as my eyes slip closed, my last thought is wildly inconvenient. Some weather is worth opening a window for. The next few days rearrange themselves into a rhythm that feels suspiciously like care. Morning has a Jake in it. So does evening. Sometimes when the ache buzzes like a hornet nest in my shin, so does 2 a.m. He arrives at 7 with a knock that's more suggestion than sound. He leaves the key in the dish by the door like he was always part of the small rituals of this space. He brings a thermos that keeps tea warm through emails, and a paper bag that always contains one reliable thing and one chaotic thing. Choose your own adventure, he says, setting the bag on the counter. My adventure involves toast and not crying at my inbox, I say. Ambitious, he says. I like it. He helps me to the table, sets my laptop where I can reach it, plugs in the charger, angles the chair so my casted leg has a place to sit like a difficult guest. He tests the bath bench he installed the night before with a skeptical hand, then adds an extra folded towel to the seat without comment. He moves like he's memorized the blueprint of the morning and is checking for earthquake damage. We talk about nothing. The weather is pretending not to be humid. The basil has ideas above its station. My coworker Carla sent a meme about shipping lanes that made me snort coffee. His crew managed to finish the rebar ahead of schedule despite a delivery truck that thought no standing was just a suggestion. He listens like he enjoys the shape of my voice around the small things. I watch the way his mouth relaxes when he talks about building something that won't fall down. At lunch, he texts a picture of a sandwich with the caption, "Civilian ration, day 4. I send back my bowl of yogurt with berries and half a banana, and he replies with a trophy emoji like I've won a game I didn't know we were playing. In the evenings, he cooks, or assembles things that pretend to be cooking. He has a gift for making the kitchen smell like garlic and something but not too spicy. He narrates the soup like a nature documentary. Here we see the noble onion, sacrificing herself for flavor. He side-eyes the murderous top shelf of my fridge until I admit the jar of pickles has been there since I had bangs. He cleans as he goes, which I find both sexy and unsettling, like discovering someone alphabetized your childhood. He leaves his phone face down on the counter and only glances at it when it buzzes twice in a row. He never looks away when I talk. We sit on the couch and watch Mrs. Kaplan's Desperate Housewives through the wall. We discuss, in the high, serious tones of the unserious, whether Tom Scavo deserved better and whether Bree is a villain or a saint or both. He tells me about a foreman who refuses to use the word level on principle and says true instead, which makes my logistics brain itch. I tell him about the time an entire container of plush lobsters was mislabeled as legal documents, and he wheezes like I've shown him the secret punchline to capitalism. It's not nothing, these things that feel like scaffolding, but they are not the thing either. We orbit around the heavy object at the center. Evan, the kiss, the alphabet of our bodies, with the precision of satellites. My mother is not a satellite person. She is a comet. She FaceTimes on day 3 with her hair up and her glasses on, and that look that says she has a to-discuss list in her head, and I am items 1 through 5. You look less pale, she says, which is her version of I'm relieved. I've been eating, I say. Good. Who cooked? I stare. Why do you assume anyone cooked? She smirks. Your eyebrows told me you were lying before your mouth did. Then cheerfully predatory. Is he there now? No, I say, because it is technically accurate. He's at work. She hums. Does he have brothers? Mother. What? It's just Data. She leans closer. Listen to me, Laura. You're allowed to let someone in the door. You're allowed to like it. I know, I say, and the mirror in the bathroom remembers me hesitating with the pill bottle. I'm trying. You don't have to try alone, she says, and then softer, your grandmother used to say. Being the one who holds the umbrella doesn't mean you can't stand under it, too. I blow out a breath. Did she actually say that? No, Mom admits, but she would have if she'd thought of it. We both laugh, and the laughter loosens something that's been clenched behind my eyes. After we hang up, I look around at the small proof of Jake in my space, the bath bench, the sticky note on the fridge that now includes black tea crossed out with the kind of satisfaction usually reserved for defeating dragons, the second mug on the dish rack. The wolf in my chest rolls onto her side, content and watchful. In the afternoons when he's not here, the quiet has a shape that isn't emptiness. I answer emails, marshal trucks on maps, argue about time zones with men named Rick. The pain ebbs to something I can outsmart. The city hums through the windows. I nap sometimes, the kind of sleep that catches you by the ankles and drags you under. I wake to the sound of his key and the small relief that arrives with it before I can tell it not to. It's a Thursday when the day tips on its axis. The pain spikes just as the clouds do. Thunder stacks on the horizon like a decision. The air is metallic, charged. The kind of weather that makes the hair along your arms think it has opinions. My phone chirps at 8 p.m., neat as a metronome. I carry the bottle to the bathroom on crutches and stare at it, at me, at the version of myself I have curated like a social feed, competent, contained, chemically even. I twist the cap. I take the dose. The hesitation still leaves a fingerprint. Back in the living room, Jake is chopping something that looks like it used to be a carrot. He glances up, reads my face like it's a blueprint with a margin of error. Scale of 1 to 10? 6, I say. It just flared. He nods, already setting the knife down, already reaching for ice, for the good towel, for the look that says we will handle it, and by we he means both of us in the exact ratio I permit. He turns off the stove and moves through the kitchen with that contained energy that makes my heartbeat try to match it. He is always at the frequency of action. He's also learned mine. Bath? He asks. Heat helps. Or shower. Shower, I say. It feels more normal. He sets up the bench like an altar. He tests the water and then steps back as I maneuver on my crutches. The steam blooms against the glass. The room fills with the quiet that you only get when the city admits you exist. I sit. The spray kisses my shoulders. My cast is bagged and taped and ridiculous. Okay? He asks from the doorway, eyes on the tile grout like if he stares hard enough he can make it mildew-free. Okay, I say, and then I reach for the shampoo and the bench shifts just a hair, and my stomach drops. The world tilts, a small, mean tip that promises bigger if I argue. I grab for the wall, slippery with steam. The sound that comes out of me is not heroic. Laura? Jake's voice is a hand before his body is. I'm coming in unless you say not to. I'm supposed to be the kind of woman who says no by default. I am. I have practiced. My mouth opens. Yes, I say, he's in the room and kneeling, by the tub before the word finishes. He keeps his eyes on my face. He places one hand on the edge of the bench to stabilize it, the other hovering near my elbow, not touching until I nod. Breathe with me, he says, simple as weather. In for 4. Hold. Out for 6. We breathe. The panic obeys math. My pulse remembers the concept of order. He doesn't tell me I scared him. He doesn't tell me anything except what we are doing next. I'm going to get a towel, he says. I'm going to put it over your shoulders so you're warm. I'm going to keep looking at your face unless you tell me otherwise. If you want me to stop at any point. I'll tell you, I say. His mouth twitches. You'll try. I'll ask. He drapes the towel across me, and it is absurd how much that helps. He studies the shower head like it insulted his mother and adjusts it so the spray kisses my back instead of my eyes. He squeezes shampoo into his palm, spreads it like he's preparing to touch something holy he doesn't think he deserves. Okay, he asks again. Okay, I say, and there's a tremor in it that has nothing to do with pain. He touches me like he has practiced wanting, and now he's practicing gentleness. Fingers to my scalp, slow, steady, not possessive, present. The kind of touch that says, this is about you. The kind that remembers I am a person with a history and a body that is not a puzzle to be solved, but a place to be listened to. Too much? He asks, watching my face. Not enough, I say, and it's entirely about hair, and entirely not about hair at all. He works the shampoo through, the pads of his fingers finding the place just above my neck, where headaches live, and offering it the chance to unclench. Steam curls around us, softening the edges of the moment. The scent of him threads through the heat, cedar, rain, and my body, the inconvenient animal, says yes with such clarity I have to close my eyes. Say if you want me to stop, he says again, like a metronome that keeps time with safety. I won't, I say, and then, because the truth catches on my teeth and refuses to let go, I don't want to. He goes still. For one heartbeat, the room holds itself very carefully. Then he exhales and nods just once, as if someone inside him called a vote and they all agreed to be gentlemen. He rinses my hair with a care that makes me want ridiculous things, like crying and laughing and telling him everything. He wraps the towel around me and helps me stand, not looking anywhere my mortification might object to, steadying when I wobble, letting me do the steps I can do without making me feel like a tourist in my own body. We move from tub to bath mat to the chair he dragged in like a plan B. The whole time he is a warm line at the edge of my balance. He kneels to dry my calves where the towel won't reach, slow enough I can stop him. I don't. He slides my pajama shorts up carefully over the cast, then looks up at me like I'm the one with authority here, which is either very sexy or very polite, and I can't decide which is more dangerous. When we're done, when the room is a soft fog and my hair is a damp halo that refuses to be tamed, he sits on the closed toilet lid, like a man who has just walked a mile carrying something fragile and needs to make sure it made it. I meant to tell you something, he says. I pull the towel tighter around my shoulders. The adrenaline shakes arrive late, fashionably. If it's about the haunted cement mixer again, I'm ready. He huffs a laugh, brief, like a match struck and blown out. Then he looks at the floor, at his hands, at the thin line of space between his boots, and says, "I'm not friends with Evan anymore." The words arrive with the weight of something that has been true long enough to have furniture. Still, I flinch. "Since when?" "Since a while," he says, which is not helpful and entirely honest. I told him I couldn't sit across from him and pretend I didn't. He stops, recalibrates. That nothing had changed. I told him I didn't like the way he talked about you. That I didn't like the way he treated you. He said I was being dramatic. He said you were a good kid and you'd work out your phase. Good kid. Phase. The words crawl over my skin like static. My wolf's ears go flat. I try to swallow the old anger that tastes like pennies. He said a lot of things I didn't like, Jake says. Voice level in that way he gets when he is suppressing an entire vocabulary. So we stopped being friends. "You left," I say, a little stunned. "I left," he agrees. "I wanted to be someone I could look in the mirror at." The towel is suddenly heavy. The room is suddenly big and small all at once. I sit very carefully, like the truth might spill if I move too fast. "You didn't have to do that," I say, because reflex is a muscle. "I know," he says, and meets my eyes. "I wanted to. There's a generosity in that I don't know where to put. It jostles my skepticism. It rends a seam in the narrative where I am inevitably the one who wants more than what's on offer. I'm not," I begin, and then stop because I don't know which word to use this time. Ready, simple, safe. "I'm not good at this." "I know," he says again, with a small, infuriating smile that somehow doesn't feel like pity. "But you're good at a lot of other things. We can be bad at this together and see if it gets better." "I hate that that's charming," I mutter. "You love that that's charming," he says, and stands, offering me a hand back to the door. He doesn't pull. He waits. Back in the living room, he settles me on the couch, tucks the towel around my shoulders like a cape, and brings me water without fuss. He turns the stove back on and rescues the soup from the edge of tragedy. He moves with that steady attention he carries like a trade. He doesn't ask me to define anything. He doesn't offer to. He keeps the moment small enough to hold. We eat in a companionable silence that keeps heating the room. After, he cleans the kitchen with the brisk efficiency of a man who has learned that soap and hot water are languages you can speak when other words are too big. When he's done, he sits on the arm of the chair across from me, not crowding, not distant. Present. "I'm proud of you," he says. "For what?" I say, somewhere between alarmed and ridiculous. "For letting me help," he says, "and for telling me not to stop." I make a face. "Don't get used to it. I won't," he says. "I'll ask every time." He leaves a little after 10, because he has a 6 a.m. pour and because if he stays I'm not entirely sure what I will do with my hands. At the door, he touches the frame above my head, not me, and says, "Text me if it spikes." "And you'll answer your phone," I say, a smile I didn't authorize tugging at my mouth. "And I'll answer my phone," he echoes. When he's gone, the apartment settles around me with a sigh. My hair drips on the towel like it has nowhere else to be. Mrs. Kaplan laughs at something through the wall. Thunder rolls, late and dramatic. I stare at the ceiling until the cracks turn into constellations. I am not brave enough to skip the dose. I am not foolish enough to pretend my body isn't listening. There is a wolf in my chest who has stopped pacing and is now lying down with her head on her paws, awake, not waiting for permission so much as watching to see if I'll grant it to myself. In the dark, with the rain finally falling for real, I think about how he said I'll ask, and how he said I left, and how he washed my hair like it was a way to say sorry for all the times we didn't say anything. I think about how he didn't make the moment bigger than I could carry. Things we don't say out loud. I wanted that kiss like oxygen. I thought wanting made me dangerous. I thought needing made me weak. Things I am learning to say, yes, not yet, keep going. I fall asleep with the towel still around my shoulders and the scent of cedar and rain woven soft into the steam, and dream of a door I open from the inside. Morning drapes itself over my apartment like clean linen, thin gold on the floorboards, plants stretching toward the light, the basil conducting photosynthesis like a tiny orchestra. I woke up before my alarm, the kind of awake that comes from sleeping through storms and decisions. My hair is a soft cloud around my face. My leg aches in a way that keeps time but doesn't demand to lead. The kettle breathes. My phone buzzes, Evan. Once that name came with adrenaline and choreography. Now it arrives like an old ringtone you forgot to change. I let it hum across the counter for 3 rings, 4, 5. Then I tap accept and set the phone to speaker, because my hands want to hold something that isn't the past. Hey, he says, warm like he gets when he's selling an idea. Heard about your leg? Accidentally discovered gravity, I say. 10 out of 10 would not repeat. He laughs, easy, familiar. You always were dramatic. I look at the light spilling over the sink, at the 2 mugs on the rack, at the towel he left folded by the bath bench like a small, useful flag. What's up, Evan? He clears his throat, shifting gears. I've been thinking, always dangerous. Cute, he says, and the word lands where it always used to, on the crown of my head like he's patting a kid who said a big word. No, listen. I don't like how we left things. I miss us. He exhales, you. I stare at the steam from the kettle, at how it unfurls and disappears without permission. We left things the way they were. I know I wasn't. Great, he says, as if returning a shirt he borrowed and stained. But I'm willing to work on it. I've been reading about a pause. About dynamics. Alpha, omega. I get it now. My wolf tilts her head, not impressed. Do you? I say, keeping my voice calm. Because calm is a blade if you sharpen it. What do you get? That it's real for you, he says quickly, eager to prove he studied. That you need more closeness sometimes. That scent matters. That the heat thing is not like a kink. It's a biological, whatever. I can handle it. I can handle you. Handle. Like I'm a tool that needs proper grip. Evan, I say, and my name for him sounds thinner than I mean it to. You didn't just not get it. You didn't want to. You wanted me not to be inconvenient. That's not fair. It's accurate, I say, and my voice doesn't shake, which feels like a small miracle I made with my own 2 hands. You told me to double up on suppressants before vacations because you didn't want to deal with it. You said scent was iffy. You called me clingy. That was before, he says, frustration slipping. I didn't have the vocabulary. You had a dictionary, I say, and realize I'm not angry, I'm done. The difference tastes like rain after a drought. And even if you didn't, you had me telling you what I needed. I'm telling you I can do it now, he insists. I can be that guy. You and me, we were good, Laura. We were adequate, my wolf murmurs. We were limited. We were familiar, I say. There's a difference. I press my palm to the counter, cool wood grounding. What you want is the version of me that doesn't exist. The one who never needed more than you were already giving. He is quiet long enough that I can hear my kettle remember it's still on. I turn it off, let the apartment return to soft. So that's it, he says, wounded pride shining through the phone. You won't even try. I tried, I say. For a long time. I tried so hard I forgot what wanting felt like. I want more. And not more from you. More for me. Is this about Jake? The name snaps out brittle. I let it sit in the air, unashamed. This is about me, I say, and about how I want to be with someone who doesn't treat my body like a problem to manage, or my needs like a phase I'll outgrow. He scoffs. You sound like a TED Talk. I sound like a person who finally believes herself, I say, and I am surprised by the heat in that. Not anger. Light. He swings for the soft spots. He kissed you first. We kissed each other, I say evenly, and then we didn't lie about it to ourselves. So you choose him. I choose me, I say again, slower, because repetition is how you teach muscles. And choosing me means not choosing you. There it is. Boundary, full grown, not a fence, but a line in the sand the tide won't take. My heart thuds. My wolf sits up and watches the horizon as if expecting the exact kind of sunrise we get. I hope you find what you're looking for, I add. Not out of kindness, but out of relief. I really do. He exhales hard. Yeah. Okay. Good luck with... All that, the words are flung, not placed. The call ends. The kitchen returns to plant breath and quiet. My hands shake only a little. Enough to be honest, not enough to scare me. Somewhere on the other side of the wall, Mrs. Kaplan clucks sympathetically at a fictional woman making a fictional mistake. The morning keeps being morning. I stand there and let the feeling move through me, not triumph, not grief, something humbler, right-sized. I pour water over tea and watch the leaves unfurl like they've been waiting for the heat. This is what it feels like to be the one who opens the door from the inside. The lock clicks. Jake steps in, soft-footed, a little damp from a sky that can't make up its mind. He pauses when he sees my face, that scan he does sliding through like a blueprint checking for cracks. He doesn't ask, "Are you okay?" He sets the bag on the counter and says, "Do you want breakfast first or to sit?" "Sit," I say. "And then breakfast." He nods, moves the mug to the coffee table, tucks the pillow behind my spine, settles my leg just so. He sits on the edge of the chair across from me, knees braced, hands relaxed. Present, not pressing. "Evan called," I say. He waits, the patience of a man who knows sometimes silence is the solvent. "He wants to try again," I say. "He says he's ready to handle me." Jake's mouth tightens, but he doesn't comment. He just tips his head so I can keep hearing myself. I said no, I tell him. The words land like pebbles in a clear pool. I said I want more. For me. His shoulders loosen a fraction like the room exhaled through him. "Good," he says, "that's simple." I laugh, a surprised, shaky sound. "You're not going to ask if I'm sure?" "I heard you be sure," he says. "I believe you. How many fights start where belief should be? How many end where it finally is?" "Thank you," I say, which covers more ground than the last 10 minutes. "Also, I used your towel. Consider it a permanent fixture," he says, a smile ghosting. He reaches for my hand, slow enough I can deny him. I don't. He threads our fingers like he's measuring the fit, not claiming. The heat is immediate and unmessy. Cedar and rain skim the air. My wolf lifts her head and doesn't move closer, because she doesn't have to. We already did the moving. "Laura," he says, my name shaped like a question he won't ask unless I tell him to. Yes, I answer anyway. To the things we didn't say and to the things we're saying now. "Come here." He shifts to the couch. Not crowding, not caging, just there, close enough that I can see the gold flecks in his irises and the notch in his brow from some high school collision with gravity. His other hand rises and pauses, a breath from my cheek. He waits. I tilt, a small yes. The kiss is not midnight in the back seat of a borrowed SUV. It's not an accident or a dare. It's morning light and warm tea and the soft sound a person makes when the thing they wanted is the thing they get, and their body recognizes that as safety. He kisses me like I am a place he's not trying to own. I'm a person he is grateful to be invited to. I kiss him back like my mouth has finally been reintroduced to honesty. It is a steady kiss, a careful kiss, the kind you can carry into an afternoon without breaking it. When we part, we don't rush to fill the silence. The air hums. The basil approves. "Okay?" he asks. "Okay," I say, and the word opens somewhere under my ribs. More than okay. He rests his forehead against mine, a small human benediction. "We'll go slow," he murmurs. "We'll ask. We'll listen. And I'll decide," I add, because I need to hear myself say it in rooms where I am happy, not just strong. "And you'll decide," he echoes. Later, he makes eggs and toast and slices a peach the exact way I like, into slivers that feel like sunlight. We eat on the couch, knees touching, the world quietly rearranging itself around a truth that finally fits. Mrs. Kaplan knocks once, opens the door without waiting, sees our faces, and closes it again with a satisfied mm-hmm that serves as both blessing and warning. I laugh into my tea. Jake grins, brief and startled, like joy crept up on him and stole his wallet. I do not text my mother. I do not have to. She will sense it like weather. I sit there with my leg propped up and my heart down and realize I am not afraid of my own edges. I do not need to shrink to be held. The door is open. The light is good. We kiss again before he leaves for work, a soft, certain thing at the threshold, and there is no guilt in it, no ghost, just the present tense. When the lock clicks, the apartment keeps being morning, keeps being mine, and for the first time in a long while, that feels like more than enough, and exactly right. By the end of the week, I graduate from couch goblin to ambulatory citizen. The PT sheet taped to my fridge is a little shrine to humility, Ankle circles, quad sets, 3 slow laps between couch and sink. I can bear some weight if I listen to my leg and not my ego. The crutches squeak like they're narrating the journey. "Look at you," Jake says from the doorway, grinning in that careful way he has when he's proud of me but doesn't want to make it a banner. Reckless. "Don't praise me," I say, sweating. "I'll get ideas." He sets a hand near my elbow without touching. The echo of his body is enough. "I like your ideas." Outside, the weather is making one of those decisions that feels personal. The light goes green, the air metallic, the breeze a rumor. My plants flatten their leaves against the windows like they want better seats for the show. "Walk?" he asks. "Doctor said short ones." "I'll be your timer. And my Sherpa," I say, lifting a crutch. "And my emotional support alpha," he huffs. "I'm not a breed." "You're very breedable," I mutter, and then clap a hand over my mouth, scandalized by myself. The pain meds made me say it. He looks like a man visited by an unexpected comet. "Please never be less honest than that," he says, and offers me his arm like we're leaving a ball instead of my building. We take the elevator, which smells like pennies and someone's cologne from 2 tenants ago. The lobby's terrazzo floor throws back the brewing storm. The glass door blurs the world into a watercolor. Mrs. Kaplan is stationed at the mailboxes like a general, robe cinched, slippers declaring war on foot arches. "Ah!" she crows, taking in the scene. My wounded gazelle and her sturdy oak. "Thank you," I say. She waggles a finger at Jake. "If she gets wet, you dry her hair. Moisture is the enemy." "Of the curls?" he asks. "Of the plot," she says, enigmatic. Then softer to me, "Go slow. This kind of weather." She waves a hand, meaning everything we're not saying. "It makes people brave and stupid. I'll be brave and not stupid, I promise." She looks at Jake, assessing, fond, a little threatening. Make sure she's both in the right measure. We step onto the sidewalk and the city is a held breath. Stores pull their awnings low like eyelids. A dog drags its walker, frantic to archive every scent before the rain edits the street. Heat lifts from the pavement in a faint exhale. The first strip of lightning sketches a horizon. We go slow. The crutches find a rhythm. My body adjusts to being vertical in a world that has so many heights. Jake walks on my street side, between me and the fussy traffic, the protective positioning any New Yorker would recognize and, in our world, my bones recognize too. My omega hum lifts, curious and cautious. The suppressants are in my system doing their polite work, but for the first time in years I've been flexible with timing. Not reckless, intentional. Curious about who I am when I'm not sanded down to office safe. The edges of scent and sensation feel closer, the volume turned up just enough that I can hear the song. "You okay?" he asks, not because I wobble, but because the air around me has shifted. "Okay," I say. More aware. He glances at me, then away, patient with silence. "If we turn at the deli, the sidewalks are less cracked," he offers, like a truce to my pride. We turn. The deli owner is translating tomatoes into a pyramid. Somewhere a radio tells a weather story. The sky stacks more thunder in its pockets. I catch a fragment of Jake's scent, rain and cedar braided with something sharper, chrome bright, the part of him that says alpha without speech. It's faint, the way heat signatures show up on a camera, an outline, a pulse. The response in me is not a wave, it's a tide, low, insistent, a pressure behind the ribs. My skin feels 1 degree more permeable. My wolf lifts her head with polite interest. She is not starving, she is paying attention. We pause at the corner to let 3 teenagers and an elderly greyhound flow around us. The wind tilts, careless, and with it my scent spills. A small ribbon, clean and warm and undeniably mine. I see it land on him, not with my eyes, with that other sense the city pretends we all keep in drawers. His posture shifts, a near imperceptible tightening across the shoulders, a breath caught and reshelved. His jaw works once. "Jake," I say quietly. "I'm good," he says, and he is, I can feel it, he is good. Holding ground, not advancing, not pretending it's nothing either. He looks down at me and the look is not hungry, not exactly. It's reverent, like the first note of a song he's waited a long time to hear. "I can put in another dose when we get back," I say, half offer, half test. He shakes his head, the smallest movement. "Only if you want to," he says, voice low enough to keep from spooking the part of me that hates being cornered. I promised I would live with the weather. I don't want to be reckless, I say. You won't be, he says. He doesn't step closer. His hands stay exactly where they are, one at his side, one near my elbow. Reckless is pretending this isn't real. Brave is deciding what to do with it. A bus sighs to a stop. A woman laughs so hard her purse falls. The storm throws its first warning drop, fat, decisive, on the back of my hand. I think of all the ways I have been small on purpose to fit a life that never fit me back. I think of our kiss yesterday morning, steady and unmessy and true. I think of the towel around my shoulders in the bathroom, the way he said I'll ask every time. I think of my grandmother's imaginary umbrella. I want to see who I am, I say. Without turning the volume all the way down, his eyes close for a beat, relief and restraint in the same inhale. When he opens them, the gold flecks are brighter. Okay, he smiles, not cocky, grateful. Then we go slow. We check in. If the weather picks up, we head home. Deal, I say, and we start walking again, two people taking a corner in the rain without making it into a movie. We make it 2 blocks before the sky decides to mean it. The rain turns from suggestion to sentence. I tuck under the deli awning, shaking water from my lashes. Jake leans an inch forward so his body takes the wind that sneaks under the awning's edge. He smells like wet wool and lightning and himself. I'm not dizzy. I'm not drowning. I'm present in a body that is not a problem to fix but a compass. Scale? He asks, easy. 3 to 4, I say, with a chance of 5 if you keep looking at me like that. He barks a laugh into his shoulder. I'm looking at you like you told me a secret and I don't get to tell anyone. You don't, I say. I know, he says, and the knowing is a hand at the small of my back that doesn't push, just warms. We time the next dash between raindrops badly and end up damp enough to be funny. By the time we make it back to my building, my shirt is clinging and my hair is staging a mutiny. Mrs. Kaplan opens her door like she was coached by the storm. She takes one look at me, one at Jake, and points to a towel hanging on a hook beside her door, like she has a lending library. Towel tax is 1 episode recap, she says. Was Lynette right to sabotage the bake sale? Yes, I say, letting Jake rub the towel gently over my hair, because the free market is a lie and PTA politics are warfare. Correct, she says, satisfied, and disappears back into Wisteria Lane. Upstairs, the apartment is a warm cave. He shepherds me to the couch, fetches dry clothes from the drawer where a few of his things now live without comment, and sets the kettle. My phone chirps 8 p.m., like a well-meaning friend. I look at the bottle on the counter, then at the rain painting the window, then at him. He meets my eyes and doesn't move. You tell me. I hold the bottle in my palm, feel the familiar shape. My heartbeat does not race. My wolf is not pacing. She is at the window too, watching the rain as if it's a story with a moral she can decode. Half dose, I say. Tonight I want to hear myself. Okay, he says simply, and turns away so I can measure without feeling watched. He makes tea exactly how I like it. He brings it when my hands are free. We eat soup and bread in companionable damp. The apartment fills with the smell of thyme and butter, and the kind of quiet that holds. The rain drums a rhythm that doesn't ask for lyrics. After dinner, I stand and hobble the few steps to the window. The city blurs into a softer version of itself, edges sanded down by water. Jake comes to stand near, not crowding, just neighboring. My shoulder almost meets his bicep. My scent lifts again, curiosity and warmth and the faint citrus of my soap. His breath catches, caught, released. He doesn't reach, I do. I slide my fingers into his and feel the small shudder that tells me he was holding the rope taut, not to restrain me, but to make sure we both had something to hold. Tell me what it's like, I say. For you, he thinks before he speaks, as if trying not to autocomplete. Like having perfect peripheral vision, he says finally. Like noticing the doorways without having to stare at them. Like wanting to widen the circle around you so nothing loud gets in. He squeezes once. And like, music. Your scent hits, and it's a note I know, but I don't want to rush the song. That's unfairly poetic, I say. You bring it out of me, he says, and doesn't flinch at his own sentiment. For me, I say, it's like the room gets honest. I can hear what I want, and the part of me that thinks wanting is dangerous gets quieter. He nods, like we're building something code-compliant between us. What do you want right now? You, I say, because the half-dose and the storm and the safety have formed a coalition. Here, like this, no rushing, no apologizing for needing you close. Done, he says, and the word lands with the solidity of a beam lowered into place. We stand like that for a while, hands knitted, looking out at a city that looks back. When my leg complains, he helps me to the couch and tucks the towel around my shoulders like we're reenacting a myth where a hero is a man who knows where the linens go. I stretch out, my cast perched on the pillow he fluffed earlier, and watch him watch the kettle, watch me, watch the rain. The pull between us is not a riptide, it's a current with clear banks. When he sits, I turn into him and rest my cheek against his shoulder. He inhales, slow, like he's calibrating a machine. His arm settles around me with care and claimless certainty. Can I ask you something unsexy? I say into his shirt. Those are my favorite questions, he says. What if I change? The word is bigger than the room. If I lower the dose sometimes, if I listen to my body, what if I get needier than I'm comfortable with? What if I like it? What if that makes me less me? His hand makes a slow path up and down my arm, not to soothe me into silence, but to keep me in my body while I talk. I don't want a curated version, he says. I don't want the Laura that was palatable to someone else. If being with me feels like freedom, then you're going to feel more. That's not you becoming less you, that's you having room. And if I want too much, then we'll build bigger rooms, he says, so matter of fact I want to cry into his shirt. Wanting isn't a hostage situation, it's a weather report. We plan around it. I snort laugh. You make everything sound like a project plan. It is, he says. The project is you being fully yourself and not apologizing for the square footage. I tilt my head to look at him. And you? I'm the contractor, he says. I can advise, I can install safety rails, I can carry things up the stairs. But you sign off on the plans. You say where the windows go. You have the only keys. Something in me knots with an audible click. Say that again, I whisper. You have the only keys, he repeats. Being with me will not mean losing any doors. It means more light. The kettle clicks off. He doesn't get up. Neither do I. The rain barrels on, 1,000 tiny hands drumming reassurance against the glass. I feel the half-dose ride in my bloodstream like a river that knows its banks, the hum of awareness, the gentle tug toward him, the absence of panic where I used to store it. I feel my own scent settle into the room, warm as a peach, unashamed. Okay, I say, and the word is a porch light turning on. He kisses my temple, a benediction and a cheer. Okay. Outside, a bolt of lightning forks like a choice and then resolves itself as if it was always going to land there. Inside, I let myself be held exactly as much as I want, no more, no less. When my phone chirps again, I silence it. Not forever, just for tonight. I like the sound of the storm better. Later, when the rain has made everything smell like new, we stand at the window again. Tomorrow, he says, we'll try the long block. Tomorrow, I agree. And if the weather changes, we change with it, he says. Together, I don't say thank you. I don't have to. The room has it written on every surface. The basil lifts its leaves like applause. Mrs. Kaplan coughs meaningfully through the wall and then, mercifully, turns up the volume on the housewives. I fall asleep with his hand warm in mine, and the storm still telling its old story, and for once, I don't make myself smaller to fit inside it. I make space. The season is coming, yes. So am I. The clinic smells like lemon cleaner and optimism that has to be reapplied every morning. I sit on the padded table with my left leg stretched out, staring at the cast like it's a bad tattoo I'm about to have removed. Jake is leaning against the wall, arms folded, pretending not to watch the doctor work the little saw around my shin. He's good at pretending. He's terrible at hiding the way his eyes keep flicking to my face. The saw whines, plaster dust drifts down like chalk snow. I try to imagine my leg under there, pale, maybe a little smaller from weeks of disuse, definitely not ready to run marathons. But still mine, still functional. Almost there, the nurse says. We'll check for swelling, then we'll get you started on walking. Walking, I repeat, like a kid tasting a word from the dictionary for the first time. Jake's mouth curves. Big day. The cast splits, and for a moment I just stare at my own leg like it's a returning traveler. There's a faint tan line where summer ended. My ankle looks delicate in a way I don't entirely trust, but when I put my foot down, the floor is still there. My body still knows how to hold me. Slow at first, the nurse warns. Physical therapy will help. You might feel wobbly. Wobbly's my brand, I say. Jake helps me down, careful, but not hovering, and I take my first few tentative steps. It feels like crossing a bridge I built myself, plank by plank, with people waiting at the other end, cheering quietly. By the time we're outside, the sky's crisp and unapologetic. The air smells faintly of rain left over from last night. I walk the 10 feet to the truck without crutches, my gait uneven but mine. Jake keeps his pace matched to mine without making a show of it. You're grinning, he says when we're on the road. I just remembered my legs are useful for more than being a shelf for a laptop. He laughs. Welcome back. Back at the apartment, I put the folder from the clinic on the counter, and before I can talk myself out of it, pull up my email. There's a resignation draft in my drafts folder that's been sitting there for 2 weeks, staring at me like a dare. I read it once more, short, polite, free of the kind of apologies that watered down truth, then hit send. Jake emerges from the kitchen holding 2 mugs. Tea? I just quit my job, I say. He blinks. That's not usually a between sips announcement. I've been thinking about it for months, I explain. It's too tangled up in him. In the version of me that stayed quiet, took on extra work to look indispensable, swallowed every time he made a decision over my head. I can't keep trying to grow in the same soil. He studies me for a long moment, then sets the mugs down. Do you want help finding something new? No, I say, and the word feels different now, solid, unshaky. I want to do this myself. His eyes soften, but there's pride in them too, like a light turned inward. Okay, he says. I'll just be here making tea and threatening anyone who sends you condescending job offers. That's a good division of labor. Dinner is my idea. I invite Mrs. Kaplan before I can lose nerve and call my mom on FaceTime so she can join the chaos. Jake predictably volunteers to cook. The apartment smells like roasted chicken and lemon. Mrs. Kaplan arrives exactly on time, wearing a scarf that could double as a tablecloth and holding a bottle of wine she announces is older than some of my regrets. My mother's face beams from the tablet propped up on the counter, already critiquing Jake's knife skills from 200 miles away. Those carrots are too thick, she says. Mom, he's fine, I groan. Mrs. Kaplan leans toward the screen. Linda, he's making roast potatoes. Thick carrots are fine. The belay I'm talking about even cooking time. Mom insists. "Linda," Mrs. Kaplan says, "you can come here and stir them yourself next time." Jake just smiles and keeps chopping, immune to the crossfire. We eat at the table with the window cracked to let in the cool evening air. Conversation overlaps, my mom asking Mrs. Kaplan about her brisket recipe, Mrs. Kaplan telling Jake the latest twist in Desperate Housewives, Jake quietly refilling my glass before I notice it's low. It feels normal, messy, loud, affectionate, like the kind of life you can stand in without bracing. After dinner, Jake clears plates while I walk Mrs. Kaplan to the door. She squeezes my hand with a strength that belies her years. "You look happy," she says. "I am," I admit. "Good," she says. "Just remember, no one worth keeping will ask you to be smaller." When the door closes behind her, the apartment falls into a softer quiet. My mom has signed off with 3 reminders about stretching and 1 about keeping my plants watered. The dishes are done. The candles are down to embers. Jake is leaning against the counter, watching me with that steady, unshowy attention that feels more intimate than flowers or grand speeches. "You did a lot today," he says. "I did," I agree. "And I didn't fall over." "You stood," he says, "in every way that matters." We end up on the couch, side by side, knees touching. Outside, the city is winding down. Inside, the air smells like dinner and rain and a faint trace of his cologne. My hand finds his without thinking. He threads our fingers together like it's the most natural movement in the world. "This is the start of something, isn't it?" I ask quietly. "It feels like it," he says. And it does. Steady, promising, unhurried. Like walking on a new leg for the first time and realizing it will hold. Later, after he's gone and the apartment has gone still, I stand in the middle of my living room with the window open. The street hums below, a lullaby of tires and voices. My body feels both my own and part of something bigger. I think of the last 6 weeks, of falling, of being carried, of saying yes when it was easier to say no. Sometimes you have to break so someone can help put you back together, and so you can finally see that you can stand on your own. But sometimes, it's nice to know there's someone who'll be there if you stumble again.